3, slopes of lines. So we just said this, but that's okay. I'll say it again. Slope formula is change in y over change in x. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Slope is also your m. You can think of it as delta y, delta x, change in y over change in x, rise over run, rate of change, if it's a story problem usually is what they would call that. So pretty much today we're going to focus on the formula from Algebra 1 though. Okay? So postulate 3-2. Two non-vertical lines have the same slope if and only if they are parallel. So non-vertical lines, these are vertical lines, straight up and down, right? Non-vertical is like slanted, okay? So they're saying parallel lines have the what slope? Same slope. That's what they're saying. You already knew that from Algebra 1, okay? Postulate 3-3, before I say it the fancy way, perpendicular lines have what kind of slope? Opposite reciprocal. Very good. Opposite flip, opposite reciprocal. Opposite reciprocal. Okay? So that's the same as saying two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if their product of their slopes is -1. That means when you multiply them together, you get -1. So for example, let's write this down really quickly. If it's parallel lines, the slope of line 1 is 2 or something. Parallel slope is also 2. I don't think you needed help with that, but we're going to say it anyway. If it's perpendicular lines, the slope of line 1 is like 2, and the perpendicular slope is opposite reciprocal, opposite flip. Opposite sign, one's positive, one's negative. Flip your fraction. If we look at the postulate, if we multiply those together, we get -1. That's the same thing but fancy. Did I lose anybody? Okay. Not new. Yep.
So, wait, never mind. That was a stupid question. I just realized what I was going to ask.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. If you change your mind, I'll help you. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular have opposite flip. Anybody still need that page? Okay. We're going to do some, right? Find the slope of the line that contains the given points. Don't work ahead of me today. I know how tempting that is. Let's just do it together. So the slope, usually in Algebra 1, you guys labeled these x1, y1, x2, y2. If you still have to do that, that's fine. If not, that's fine. It doesn't matter. So our slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Is everybody okay with that? Does anyone do it backwards than what I just did? Okay, that's fine too. It doesn't matter. The formula technically is change in y over change in x, but if you're good at formulas, then this is fine. If you're ever not a formula person, especially in geometry, come and see me later, and I can always show you a way around it. Does that make sense? But if you're a formula person, it's pretty easy. Just plug it in, right? So what's 1 minus 1? 0. -2 minus 3? -5. What's 0 divided by anything? 0. My actual slope is 0. You have to give it all the way to the 0. Don't leave it 0 over -5. That's not done. Does that make sense? Okay. On this one, what's y2? 7 minus 3 over -4 minus -4. What's 7 minus 3? 4. Two negatives make a positive. 0. What's 4 over 0? Undefined. If you forget which one is which, okay? This one was 0. This one was undefined. If you forget which one is which, what could you do? That's true. That's very fancy. Yes, good job. That's true. Or you could use the calculator, right? That's true. So what she said was zeros in the bottom. You can't divide by 0. It's undefined. True. Or you can use a calculator. And if you use a calculator, it'll give you error, which means undefined. The way I remember it is zeros under, so it's undefined. Zeros under, so it's undefined. Whatever works for you. Have I lost anybody? Okay. All right, determine the slope of the line. Again, I'm going to make you guys set this one up. Don't solve it. Just set it up. Just substitute in the formula for me. I want to make sure you can do that without me. So you should have gotten, what? Negative 10 minus negative 11 over negative 12 minus negative 6. Is everybody comfortable with that? And then we solve it, right? Two negatives make a positive, or use a calculator. And what do I get for my numerator? That's top. What do you get on top? 1. And then denominator, two negatives make a positive, so negative 6. You can write what we have, 1 over negative 6. You could also write negative 1 over 6. You can also write negative 1 over 6. Those are all the same. As long as you only have one negative, top, bottom, or side, it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Okay? All right. Determine whether line AB and line CD are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. What does it mean for two lines to be parallel? Same slope. What does it mean for them to be perpendicular? Opposite reciprocal, opposite flip slope. Neither is neither, right? So like a 2 and a 7 or something, okay? So what we're going to do is Cheyenne's row over, so Cheyenne, Dawson, and Paige's row. You guys are going to find the slope of AB. And then Alex and Miranda's row, you guys are going to find the slope of CD. Does that make sense? Okay? Check with a neighbor when you think you found it. What did the AB group get? 2? What about CD? 2? So take a moment with that. If you were in the AB group, at least write down the slope of CD. You don't have to do the work if you don't want to. And if you're CD, write down AB. Do you see what I'm saying? So that way we have both answers. What's it mean if they're both the same? Parallel. The actual question was, are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So just stopping here didn't really answer the question, okay? If you don't have this, it's actually wrong. You're super duper close, but you're wrong, okay? Mm-hmm.
So when you're plugging in like numbers into the formula,
Yeah.
if you're subtracting a negative, is it okay if you just like realize that it's adding and you put that on the side?
Whatever gets you the right answer is fine. I don't care. Yeah, I'm just showing you the step 1, right? Anybody confused by that?
So as long as they're the same number, it's parallel. And if it's
Yes.
two different numbers, it's perpendicular.
Well, not necessarily.
Like after you do all the proving and stuff.
If they're the exact same number, it's parallel. If it's like 2 and negative 1 over 2, perpendicular. If it was like 2 and 15, nothing. If it's 2 and positive 1 over 2, nothing.
To be perpendicular, you have to have like a fraction.
Yeah, to be perpendicular, the fractions have to flip,
Right.
and 1 has to be negative.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. All right, so this time, you guys had 0 in yours, right? Okay, so you guys get the 0 this time. So this time, are you sure? You guys did AB the first time. No, this time, you guys do CD. So Cheyenne's row over, do CD. And then Alex and Miranda's row do AB. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm showing the work, too, in case you get confused. If you need me to actually do it, I'm happy to do that, too. Check it with a neighbor that did the same one as you. What AB get? 1/7? What about CD? Negative 1/2. Yep. Did anyone not get what you were supposed to get? Write down the other one. If you want to show the work, you can. But at least write down the answer to the other one. Okay? Are these the same? No. Are they opposite? Flip? No. So our answer is neither.
Is the first one not like negative at all?
This one?
Yeah.
This would be -1. This would be -7. Two negatives make a positive. Always reduce as much as you can. Did I lose anybody? Okay. Anyone still need this page? Okay. On this one, graph the line that satisfies each condition. So for this, number 37, we want to graph a line that passes through 1, negative 4. So we're going to graph that in a moment. And it's parallel to, I assume you have a line over yours, to YZ, line YZ, where Y is at 5, 2, and Z is at negative 3, 5. Negative 5, excuse me. So what we're going to do is find the slope of line YZ, right? And we're going to use that in a moment. So everybody find the slope of line YZ. Do you see how I'm labeling everything, by the way? Right? Like A or YZ, and then on the last one I said slope of AB. You have to be careful with that. So it's going to be negative 5 minus 2 over negative 3 minus 5, right? What is negative 5 minus 2? Negative 7. Negative 3 minus 5. Negative 8. Two negatives make a positive. So if the slope of line YZ is 7 over 8, what is the slope of the line I'm going to make? 7 over 8, because they're parallel. They're the same, right? So we start at 1, negative 4. So go right 1 and down 4. Label everything. That's an X. Okay? I know you don't have graph paper on here. You're just sketching it. That's fine. We're going to have to extend your graph probably. I think the X-axis you need to extend. So go to the right and put more tick marks. Do you know what I mean? I think I have to too. Okay? So from X, from 1, negative 4, where am I going to go? I'm going to rise 7 and I'm going to run 8. They're both positive, so it's up 7 and right 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I had to add 1 to mine, 8. When you do that, graph the best line you can and connect the dots. For your homework, before you leave, probably grab graph paper so it's prettier. You can sketch it too. I don't really care. It's just easier to see. Did I lose anybody? Anyone confused? Anyone still need it? Okay. All right, last question. Determine which line passing through the given points has a steeper slope. So obviously I have to find the slope, right? So we're going to find the slope of line 1 and the slope of line 2. Cheyenne's group over, you guys do line 1. And then Alex's group over, you guys do line 2. Okay? Line 1 people, what'd you get? Negative 2 over 3. Line 2 people? On line 2, so even if you didn't do line 2, look up here, okay? On line 2, they end up with negative 15 over 12, which you have to reduce, always, 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 okay, to negative 5 over 4. Is everybody okay, or does anyone need me to do the math to get there? So the actual question is, which line is steeper? So when you figure that out, what you do is basically take the absolute value of both numbers. So what I'm saying is ignore the sign. So make them both positive. Because if one of these was positive and one was negative, you would think the positive was bigger. But that's not how we figure out a steeper slope. The way we figure out a steeper slope is ignore the sign. So I'm going to look at 2/3 and technically 1 1/4, right? That's 5 over 4. It's the same. Which number is bigger, 2/3 or 1 1/4? 1 1/4, so which line is probably steeper then? Line 2. The bigger number is the steeper line. But you ignore the sign, because what we could have had was, this could have been a positive 2/3, and this would have been a negative 5/4. If you didn't ignore the sign, you would have thought that was steeper because a positive is always bigger than a negative. Do you see what I'm saying? So your final answer is line 2 is steeper. Okay? Here's another thing I want to point out. Always reduce, I just said that. When we're doing slope, when you're actually graphing it for sure, you want to keep it an improper fraction. Don't change this to negative 1 1/4. Just realize that that was the same. Do you see what I'm saying? Have I lost anybody? Okay. It already says it on your homework sheet, I think, but skip 46 and 48. Anybody have a question? Okay.